Good morning. Opening hymn is number 1024, When the Spirit Says Do.
Do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. Oh Lord, you gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 Gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you gotta sing, oh Lord. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you gotta dance, oh Lord. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 Laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. When the Spirit says laugh, you gotta laugh, Lord. You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. 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 Shout when the Spirit says shout. You gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you gotta shout. Lord, you gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. 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 You gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 Spirit says do.
Good morning. My name is Dawn Huebner. I'm your worship associate serving alongside the Reverends Roger Jones and Lucy Bunch, our musicians, Irina, and guest vocalists, Beth and John, and our DRE, Crystal Fountain. Whether you are here in person or participating online, welcome. It is wonderful to be together. The mission of our congregation says, we come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in the world. Toward this end, we honor the Nisenan, Southern Maidu, and Miwok peoples for their enduring commitment to this land where UUSS exists. We recognize that they have never ceded, left, nor ceased to care for this land. For those on Zoom, if you'd like to follow what's happening today with an order of service, you can click the link in the chat. For those who are here, the order of service is on the table in the back of the room. Our Blue Sheet weekly announcement gives details about what's happening this week and what's coming in the near future. If you're new, the Blue Sheet is a great way to find out what's going on. You can find Blue Sheets on the back table, on our website, and through the link in the chat. Another way that we communicate, the weekly message, comes out by email on Fridays with announcements and a note from one of our ministers. We're happy to send this email to those who fill out a newcomers form, either through the link in the chat or at the greeters table after the service. As always, after the service on Zoom, there will be 12 minutes to get acquainted in breakout rooms. And if you're new here in person, you can find coffee, tea, refreshments, and conversation in the welcome hall and outside. Also outside, if you haven't noticed, you can join us for the, I hope it's safe to say, first annual clothing exchange on the patio from noon until 2 p.m. A $5 donation is requested to participate, and I hear that early birds will not be turned away. Today is also the last day to sign up for Reverend Rogers' 4-session class on the parables of Jesus. The group starts this Tuesday evening, so if you have not already signed up, feel free to stop by the connections table or visit the website if you're interested. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment to silence your phone as we begin the music for centering.
Thank you, Irina. Good morning. It's good to be with you if you're in the room or if you're on Zoom. I'm Roger Jones. Our chalice lighter this morning will be Pam Martin. I have a couple of things to mention first, though. One is that next Sunday is our annual harvest service for all ages, and you're invited to bring produce from your gardens or otherwise for the harvest exchange. And people will take home things that you brought, and you will be invited to take home things that other people brought. And before the service,
Since it's the first Sunday of the month, we have the Labyrinth meditation at 9:30, and then it's also our Sunday for lighting candles for joys and sorrows. And there was one more thing I was going to mention, which is that this past month, for actually 6 weeks, a number of our members and friends have been volunteering, teaching English as a second language classes to 24 people, children and adults, who are part of the 4 families who have made their way here after the fall of Afghanistan, after the U.S. withdrawal. And if you were a volunteer who helped out with these classes, with these 24 folks, would you rise or type your name in the chat if you're on Zoom? And Margot is standing in the back, so she's one of them, and these are others. Thank you. And Pam is coming up. The flaming chalice represents our broader Unitarian Universalist religious heritage and our connections to congregations around this country and around the globe. Let us kindle its flame now, and let us affirm together the mission of our own congregation here at home. We come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in the world. Thank you, Pam.
Well, now it's my turn to say good morning. Good morning, everyone. What a beautiful summer day we have. And it's time to invite our kids and our teachers down to the front. Ginny's going to be working on the quilt that our RE kids are making, and you'll be able to bid on that quilt at the auction. So I'm excited about that. And let's sing them out to having a good time working with Ginny. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Let's sing it fast. Let's sing it fast. Don't go too slow. Don't go too slow. I know you can. I know you can. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't tell Anthony I changed the lyrics. So I'm going to be heading out and joining the kids and spending some time with them after the prayer. So I wish you a wonderful service this morning. But let's start with a time of prayer and meditation. We come together today and every Sunday as a community of love and mutual support. And as a caring community, we share our joys and sorrows with each other, celebrating our happiness and milestones, and offering compassion and care to those who are suffering or facing challenges in their life. Everyone can send a joy or a sorrow and have it included in the service. There's a link on our website and on the weekly message right near where the services are listed. You can also call the office before 5 o'clock on Friday, and Roger or I will receive your message. So this morning, Lynn Carlson wants to share with us and ask us to send healing energy to her son and daughter, both of whom are facing stressful surgery. Virginia Dunstan is sharing her joy at healing well after a hip replacement, and she thanks her daughter for her loving care. And in our caring and connected community, The death of one among us can feel like a tear in our fabric, but we know that through healing and connection, we can mend that and keep the spirit of that person as part of who we are. So this week, I'm sad to share that Virginia Fagans died this past Wednesday. Virginia has been a member of our community since 1961. And in the years prior to the pandemic, you could see her sitting about halfway down on this aisle with her dog Harley with her. Some of you may remember Harley as well as our beloved Virginia. She was a good friend to many in this congregation, and we will miss her wit and her spark. Plans are underway for a memorial on August 20th, so stay tuned for a time, but we look forward to being together and celebrating Virginia's life. So we're at midsummer now, and at each time in the year, as the year cycles through, we often call to mind memories of events that have occurred at this time in years past. I'm sure on your hearts today that for many of us, July might hold memories of beloved dead, the celebration of a milestone in your life, maybe your birthday, or memories or events that have left a lasting impression on our lives and on our hearts, whether in joy or in sorrow. Let's take a moment in silence to reflect on the memories that are present for us this morning. And let us look forward this morning as well to planned events that give us joy, things we're looking forward to, possible challenges that we know will enrich us. Let us be open to the possibilities of what is to come and bring curiosity and love into our hearts and minds. Let us think ahead to those things that are coming into our lives. Let us pray. Spirit of life and love, great web of all existence, hold us in your loving embrace as we reflect on days past, sorrows and joys that are part of the cycle of life. Let us gather strength from these cycles of birth and death, loss and renewal. These cycles that the earth teaches us through the power of nature. We see the flowers bloom and die only to be renewed again. We know that life returns. Help us to see that we are indeed connected to these cycles and to all beings on this earth. Spirit of creation, help us look to the future, seeing the possibilities that are present, seeing that divine spark that is older than time and younger than the newest blade of grass. Let us experience joy and delight to heal and sustain us. We pray this in the name of love and in the name of our ancestors, that we may be sustained by love of each other, by our love of this earth, and by the great interconnected web of all. Blessed be. Now let's take a moment of silence to reflect on the prayers in our own hearts. Blessed be.
175 is our next hymn. We celebrate the web of life. Invited to rise as you feel comfortable.
We celebrate the web of life, its magnitude we sing, for we can see divinity in every living thing. A fragment of the perfect whole in cactus and in quail, as much in tiny barnacle as in the great blue whale. Of ancient dreams we are the sum, our bones link stone to star, and bind our future worlds to come with worlds that were and are. Respect the water, land, and air, which gave all creatures birth. Protect the lives of all that share the glory of the earth.
So this is an atypical service. It's a question service rather than a service that revolves around a hymn. We started inviting questions a couple weeks ago, and questions have really kind of rained in on us from various mediums and channels. So we're going to be doing a first block of questions that we received in advance, and then a second block of questions from the floor, questions that we were handed today, and questions from the chat. So if you're on Zoom and you want to go ahead and enter a question, please do so. For any of you who either have questions today or who submitted questions previously, we apologize if we don't get to your question. We had easily twice as many questions as we're able to answer today. If you have a burning desire to have your question answered and it isn't answered today, you can try to catch Roger at some other time, make an appointment, or if it's a quick question, speak with him at some point when you see him. So our first question comes from Beth, TenPas, and it is related to the banners that are hanging up around the sanctuary. Which one or two of the banners hanging in our sanctuary most speaks to you?
Thank you, Beth. I want to tell you a little bit about the banners, especially if you're newer here. These were, the original banners were created and hung in the mid-1980s. In the library, you can see pictures of our older iterations of facilities, and you can see the dedication ceremony from them. And then after we returned in 2015, after the renovation and expansion of this building, a team of volunteers put new backings on the symbols and created a few new banners. And some of them that are new are the flaming chalice on the right, and the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, representing earth-based spirituality, and the red banner indicating freedom from oppression and bondage. I was prodded by this question to actually go to the back of the room and look at the description of all of the banners, and haven't read them for a long time, even though I probably was involved in editing them, and they were very eloquent and inspiring. So I don't really have a favorite. I really like the colorful ones and the variety among them. I think the variety is what's important about them, not any particular one. However, a very interesting one is the one on my right, which you might not see on Zoom, so come down and visit us during the week. It's a circle and with nothing in it. And it's not intended to be a satire on UU thinking. But it's really a reflection that the future is open, that sources of religious inspiration and spiritual inspiration are always emerging, and we are open to that in trust.
From Carol Koss. When you use the words pray or prayer, what do those words mean to you? And what would you hope they mean to us, your congregation?
Thank you, Carol. You know, people have made the joke that Unitarians are the people who pray to whom it may concern. And so I suppose I come with that open attitude when I pray. I think the word prayer and also maybe the action of it is a metaphor for going inward, for pausing, for going deep into what you care about, what you're curious about, what you're longing for, what you're open to, as well as a metaphor for lifting up your fears, your hopes, your joy to the embrace of the cosmos, to the embrace of the divine, to the spirit that connects us all. So I think when we use that term here, it's an invitation to go inward, to open ourselves to what's beyond us, and it's not anything more nailed down than that. It's an invitation.
From Erin Byerly. How can I be tolerant of all traditional religions when they espouse so many values I find offensive, such as homophobia, sexism, American exceptionalism, and currently authoritarianism?
Gee, thanks. I'm going to hide behind the pulpit here. Thank you, Aaron. I have those same issues, those difficulties. I would say tolerance is kind of it's not a word that I think is helpful because it's too vague and it sort of implies that we have to sort of not confront or not challenge actions that come out of values that are very different from our own. But if you find yourself in the unfortunate situation, as many of us do, of having encounters with somebody who's espousing values that don't reflect yours, you have a couple of choices. One is to discern if they're at all curious where you're coming from, and if they're not, then just to withdraw from the conversation, or to ask them if they're curious to know where you're coming from, and if it's clear that they're not, or they're clear, you can withdraw if possible. But I would say that many of those values, and I even hesitate to call them values because they're sort of reactions, and they're filled with such hostility that they don't feel like values to me. But I think the other choice would be to say, those are not my spiritual and religious values, and my values cause me to have a different perspective than you on this, because our values include love of neighbor, of openness to uncertainty and curiosity. Our values include us to affirm that democracy is important and that people should be treated with dignity and respect. And also I want to mention that all traditional religions include people who are hostile, angry, violent, hurtful, and right now we're seeing an expression of part of Christianity which is trying to assert that to be Christian means you have to be nationalist and you have to be violent, and that's not what most of the liberal and progressive and humble Christians that I know speak about. So I think there's such variety in every religious tradition that it's important to convey the nuances and also know who our friends are in every tradition.
Is mic on? Okay. From Linda Tanforan, what are you going to be doing during your 5-month sabbatical?
Well, on the first day, I will rest. Sabbatical is a gift that congregations provide their ministers, and I will have one starting on Labor Day, and then Lucy will have one starting the 1st of February, and I will be back. And it's really an opportunity to rest, to renew ourselves, to do something different from what we do when we're so busy with congregational life. And I do intend to rest. The last time I took a sabbatical in 2016, I needed to finish a dissertation for my Doctor of Ministry degree, and that nearly killed me, and it was not restful, and I didn't actually come back in great shape after that. But so I do intend to rest and renew myself, perhaps take some retreats, and definitely catch up on my reading, and some travel involved. In September, I will be co-leading a Unitarian heritage tour to Poland with my colleague Jay Atkinson, and 2 of our members, Jan and Patty, have signed up to go along on that pilgrimage, and there might be room for one more if you're interested, and you can find out about it on our website, or you can talk to me. So Poland, and then in October, some time in Japan, and in January, a couple of Sundays back-to-back preaching for the UU congregation in San Miguel de Allende, which is in Mexico, and then probably sightseeing there. And then some kind of skill or creative endeavor, developing a skill or doing something creative will probably be part of it. Thanks.
We look forward to hearing about all of that. From John Byerly, if you hadn't become a UU minister, what would you be doing, and how would your life be different?
I wouldn't be going on a sabbatical, and the career I had when I was a young adult and before I decided to go to theological school was in state government for the state of Illinois, and so if I had stayed in that, I would have been retired for the past 8 years with a pension, but I'm not retired with a pension. So, but in college, in Indiana University, I was interested in a lot of things. I was an English major, but I turned out to like economics, so I took a lot of that. And I liked languages, and I took a lot of Spanish and spent time studying in Mexico. And so I thought about, and it was suggested to me to go to graduate school in something related to that. So maybe I would have ended up in Latin American studies or something like that. But I didn't have very good self-esteem then, and so whenever I was encouraged to do anything, I found reasons to dismiss it. And the counselors or professors that encouraged me didn't really realize my self-esteem was as low as it was, so I didn't get a lot of pushing. So I might have done something different. But one thing I did like from high school into college was journalism, and I worked for 2 semesters on the daily newspaper at Indiana University, and I was a reporter. And I had such anxiety that I decided I really couldn't do this as a career, and I really shouldn't keep this as a major. And the anxiety was about deadlines, which is sad. And of course, now I have deadlines on Saturdays or Sunday morning, depending.
Okay, this might be the last question for this block. At one point, UUSS was largely guided by humanist principles. Is humanism still a part of UU philosophy? And this is from Joanne Englund.
Joanne, are you here? She's in the library. Hi, Joanne. Joanne is our poet who leads the Lectio Divina two Monday mornings a month. So this congregation is definitely guided by humanist principles. And for me, the most important principles are that you do not have to believe in a supreme being or God to be an ethical person, to be a religious person, to be a spiritual person. And another principle of religious humanism is the goal of the full flourishing of every human being, the freedom of every person to flourish and develop, and also the goal of community, of putting compassion into action for a just society. And there's a strong emphasis on the use of reason and dialogue that comes from religious humanism. So if you've been around here for a while, you know that all of those things are true about how we live. Humanism with a capital H is often a term that you use or others will use to affirm that they're not theist, they're atheist or they're agnostic, but they also are drawn by these values that I described. And during the middle and end of the 20th century, religious humanism was very dominant in many of our congregations, and probably the majority of the people here espoused it. But and there are still many religious humanists among us, and I would count myself as one of them. But we have an eclectic spirituality, a great variety of ways of expressing our spiritual selves in this congregation and in UU congregations in general. So we're much more pluralistic than we probably were 40, 50 years ago. Okay. Okay.
It's fine, thanks. Thank you, Roger. All righty. All right, yeah, I'm half blind, that's why I need this little light here. This song is The Vagabond. It's by Rafe on Williams. It's spelled Ralph, but he's pronounced his name Rafe. And the words are by R.L. Stevenson, Robert Louis Stevenson, Kidnapped, Treasure Island, all that stuff. And this is basically a poem about living on the road. It's called The Vagabond, and it goes like this. Give to me the life I love, let the lave go by me. Give the jolly heaven above and the byway nigh me. Bed in the bush with stars to see, bread I dip in the river. There's the life for a man like me. There's the life forever. Let the blow fall soon or late. Let what will be o'er me. Give the face of earth around and the road before me. Wealth I seek not hope nor love, nor a friend to know me. All I seek the heavens above and the road before me. Or let autumn follow me where a field I linger, silencing the bird on tree, biting the blue finger. White as meal the frosty field, warm the fireside haven. Not to autumn will I yield, not to winter even. Let the blow fall soon or late, let what will be o'er me. Give the face of earth around and the road before me. Wealth I ask not, hope nor love, nor a friend to know me. All I ask, the heaven above and the road before me. The life I love, let the lamp go by me. Give the jolly heaven above
to see. Bread I dip in the river. There's the life for a man like me. There's the life forever. Let the blow fall soon or late, let what will be o'er me. Give the face of earth around, and the road before me. Wealth I seek not, hope or love, nor a friend to know me. All I seek, the hand above, and the road before me. Oh, let autumn fall on me, where afield I linger, silencing the bird on tree, biting the blue finger, white as meal the frosty field, warm the fireside haven. Not to autumn will I yield, not to winter even. Let the blow fall soon or late, let what will be o'er me. Give the face of earth around, and the road before me. Wealth I ask not, hope nor love, nor a friend to know me. All I ask, heaven above, and the road below me.
Generosity is a spiritual practice. The congregation has a weekly practice of generosity, which means we give half of the Sunday offering to a local organization working to heal the world. Our community partner for the month of July is the Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services. It was started more than 4 decades ago as a food pantry, and now it is the largest nonprofit provider of basic human needs in Sacramento County. With food, support services, training, and English as a second language classes, it helps working poor people and other low-income neighbors to build a path to self-sufficiency. It serves neighbors who have been lifelong residents of this area, as well as immigrants and refugees who have chosen to make Sacramento their home. Their goal is simple: to offer our community the resources they need to shape their best tomorrow. On the slide and in the chat on Zoom, you can see how you can contribute electronically or by mailing in a check here to UUSS. You can even text your donation from your seat. Please give generously in support of this important organization. Thank you for your generosity. The offering will now be given and received.
Thank you, Irina. As our greeters bring forward our offerings, please join me in speaking our unison words of response. May generosity bless our world, and may gratitude nourish our spirits. Welcome back to our program. Part 2 is sponsored by Chalice Blend Coffee. You can try it during coffee hour today. You can even take some home. Chalice Blend is produced by 3 different cooperatives in Latin America, two of which actually are all women cooperatives. And we've been serving it, brewing it for a long time because it really helps people get through a lot of sermons around here.
So from Elizabeth Pataki, please talk about religious or spiritual beliefs versus direct experiences.
So thank you, Elizabeth. So everybody has, I think everybody has experiences of life, of the world, of relationships that we could describe as spiritual experiences. And a lot of people have beliefs about life and the world and relationships. And there is overlap, of course, but it doesn't have to be the same thing. For example, a person in the forest, experiencing the forest in an inspiring way, or the mountains, could have the same experience of awe, of humility, of joy, but they may describe it in different ways. If they're theistic, if they're Jewish or Christian or Muslim, or if they're non-theistic, or if they're from whatever tradition, Buddhist, Hindu, that would be described in different ways because we ascribe meaning to it based on our beliefs. And likewise, you can have people who say they believe similar things, but might experience the world, art, music, relationships in different ways. And so that's. And I think that in our tradition, there's been the Unitarian Universalist tradition. There's been a tension, a wrestling, a dialogue between the heart and the head, the experience of life, and expressing that experience and the emotions that come with it, and thinking about what it means, and really a much more mental approach to life. And so both of those things have been important in our history, and I think they're important they're important for me. Thanks.
And we're going to take a few questions from the floor as well. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand. And Roger
Lisa's
will.
got one over here, Lisa. Only Lisas get to ask questions today.
So Roger, you, in your scope of responsibility, you have RE. What would you like the congregation to know, those who may not have young children or youth, and who are familiar with RE, what would you like them to know about RE?
So what would I like them to know, you to know about religious education for children and youth? I would say that the first thing we do here is to provide community, a sense of community beyond the familiar things that we do during the week, which is family and school and work, that we're a community of all ages, and that we're a place where they are loved, welcomed, and where they belong. And that everything we do is to live that out. Also, that we encourage curiosity, and we encourage respectful and curious relationships with one another. And we try to learn some things, but really what we learn are values, not specific religious teachings, although we often will talk about specific religious stories as a source of reflecting on values, but our goal is not to educate in that sense of like putting information in. It's really to respect and include and connect people. And you could talk to our religious education coordinator if you have questions about how you might support our ministry to children and youth and families, either by your presence and volunteering or some other way. Hope that helps.
So another quick question from somebody who sent in previously, and then we'll take another from the floor. This is from Jim Eastman. I happen to know that he wanted to ask this of Lucy and didn't get a chance to, so it would be interesting to know if Roger's and Lucy's responses would be different. In your humble opinion, what is the best place in Sacramento for a spiritually deepening meal?
Gunther's ice cream. I like a lot of kinds of cuisine, especially restaurants that have vegetarian options, and I'm really glad that this area has so much variety. I mean, just close to our church, we have Afghan and Middle Eastern and Japanese and Ethiopian restaurants and lots of others that I can't think of right now. And I think for me, the sense of spiritual deepening or experience in a meal is authentic conversation if I'm with other people, authentic conversation, as well as being able to reflect on what it means to have a dish of food in front of me, to think about the geographical sources of the things that went into that food and the people whose labor went into growing it and harvesting it and transporting it, and then, in the place where I'm eating it, to prepare it and to serve it. It really is an opportunity for reflection on interconnectedness and interdependence to go to a restaurant. And Lisa, I see that Nick and Sharon back there, one or the other of them has a question.
I'm Sharon Alexander, and I hear people in this congregation, and I've been a member a long time, use the expression, in faith. What do they mean, in faith?
That's a good question. I guess I could tell you what I mean when I say in faith, or when I sign a letter, yours in faith. I think it means in the spirit of the values that call us together, in trust of you, in trust of what we're doing together, in trust that it's worthy of committing ourselves to. Is that enough? Maybe. Okay. Thank you, Sharon.
With just 1 minute to go, we'll do a knockoff question. Do you believe in God?
Could you read the whole question? I've been.
So this is from Judy Lane. What do you say when someone asks if you believe in God?
I say it depends, or no, I don't say it depends. It would depend on the context, but generally I would say I don't know. I don't know, but if I were with somebody for whom that is important, especially in a hospital room or at the end of life or at a time of terrible crisis or tragedy, I'm not going to be spending time articulating my agnosticism, and I actually choose to claim, to believe, to act at least as if there is a spirit, a divine spirit that cares about you, cares about me, cares about what we do, and cares about the future of humanity and this world that we share with other creatures, and that I can turn to that spirit or that source of love, which is how I would define the divine, for guidance, for steadying me, for prodding me, and sometimes to turn over my will to that source, to that power, so I think that's sort of how the word works for me, or how the concept makes its way into my life. And the most important thing is not whether I believe in some concept of God, but that I remember that it's not me. It's not me. So, is that it? All right. Thank you very much. We will. And thank you, Lisa. Closing hymn is number 298. Please rise as you're comfortable to sing all 5 verses.
With justice thy guide, join with all
As we prepare to extinguish the chalice, please join me in speaking our shared intention. We extinguish this flame, but we carry the light, love, and commitment of this gathering into the days to come.
Thank you, Dawn, for putting me up to this. I invite you to reach out to one another. Reach out. If you're at home, reach out to us, and we reach out to you. May you depart in peace and return in joy. For all who see God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. And for all who seek a right path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step, one day at a time. Blessed be.